to do, and I'm proud of everybody at Florida Department of Emergency Management who's been up with this. You know, we declared a state of emergency last week when it wasn't even a formed system because we saw the potential.
You're watching live now from Fox, everyone. That was the latest Governor Ron DeSantis update there in Sarasota as we are awaiting a news conference from him a little bit later here on Live Now from Fox. Of course, we will feature that for you in real time. You can take a look here at the latest track there for Hurricane Ian there as we've been continuing to give you full coverage today here on Live Now from Fox. When we come back, we are going to be talking to the Sarasota County Emergency Management Chief, and he will be breaking down the various efforts that is going on there in his county. We'll be breaking it all down coming up in just 2 minutes here on Live Now from Fox. And welcome back, everyone, here to Live Now from Fox. It is a new hour here, and I'm your host, Mike Page, as we continue to track the very latest with Hurricane Ian. And take a look here. This is the latest right now as it is getting closer to Florida here as evacuations are underway in several counties. And our next guest here is very busy, but we thank him so much for joining us here today on Live Now from Fox. This is the Sarasota County Emergency Management Chief, Ed McCrane. Thank you so much for being on with us here on Live Now from Fox. And I wish we were meeting on better circumstances, but here we are. And just tell us, what is the latest here that you are seeing?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to get our message out there. We are under a state of emergency. We have been for about 24 hours now. We began our evacuation of what we call level A. It's the red areas on the map, below 12 feet below sea level. 0 to 12 rather. And then we opened up evacuation centers, 12 of them and 2 medically dependent. We've opened them up for the public. They're filling up as we speak. We moved several hundred medically dependent people to the shelters that have the oxygen and things like that. And then this morning, the track shifted more towards us. We were basically direct hit center of the track. And our storm surge threat was elevated from 10 to 15 feet. So we added the orange, the level B. So we have A and B evacuations now. That's several dozen, several hundred more people that have to evacuate. So we're getting that word out. We continue to inform the community about what's happening and getting prepared to see where this storm is going to go. We hope it continues to drop. We don't want any ill will on our partners to the south. We don't want them to get it either. But we are prepared for the worst and hoping for the best.
Yes, absolutely. As we continue to look there at that track, and what the problem is that we are hearing about is that once it does reach land, it's going to slow down and just almost sit on areas there in Florida. And is that a major concern that you are looking at as well for flooding reasons?
Yes, it is. We already have rivers that are at minor or moderate flood stage. And when that happens, you know, the rivers bend, but the rivers decide to go straight, and they tend to go straight through neighborhoods that are out there. Those folks out there, many of them know that those areas are prone to flooding, but we also have some new development, new subdivisions that don't realize that they are in those flood zones. So we're going to we have resources ready to respond to that. High water vehicles, small boats, things like that. But the most important thing is that we warn the public in advance. We do Everbridge messaging through a telephone notification system. We send deputies out there door to door, and we put these warnings out. They are all in the evacuation A and B, which is part of our response right now. So hopefully they all listen and get out of there. But unfortunately, some people like to stay behind. I understand you want to guard your home, but we try to tell people you can always replace your home. You can't replace your life. So please take this seriously and evacuate so that when those waters come, you're not there.
Yeah, absolutely there. And as we were learning a little bit earlier today here on Live Now from Fox, that this is setting up to be a 100-year storm here in this region of Sarasota, Tampa, if it does hit in that area. And do you think that's why we're seeing some of the hesitancy from people in the area that might want to stay back and say, you know what, it's dodged us before, it's going to do it again?
Yeah, unfortunately, there is a lot of that. I think we're getting a pretty good response from our residents from what we can see, but there's always those folks that try to stay behind. They use their smartphone. They're looking at their apps, and they're looking at the track, and they're trying to hope for a turn and wait till the last minute. The problem with that is if you're on one of the barrier islands and you do that and you're wrong, you're trapped. We can't come to you. You may lose a bridge. And even if you're in a high rise, you can go to an upper floor, but when there's no water, no power, and you're surrounded by water and something goes wrong, you're on your own. And we don't want people to put themselves or their families in those situations.
And let's peel back the curtain a little bit and really just talk about what you are going to be dealing with in the next, let's say, 8 to 12 hours as you continue to look at this storm here. What is the next 12 to 24 hours going to look at for you and your office and your staff?
Well, the teams are constantly working on missions. We have an incident action plan with objectives to complete. For right now, the EOC is at level 1, full activation. We have the day shift in here. At 8 p.m., we switch over to the night shift. It's not the same amount of crew, but they're there. They're working on those objectives. Tonight's objectives are to get those evacuation centers, filled up, get those people in there, make sure that everything's buttoned up, get our first in teams out and stage so they can respond, and get everybody that has a response role in their safe area so they can respond after the storm is over. We have 9 first-in teams, which is heavy equipment, law enforcement, fire, public works. They go out, stage, and then after the storm's over and the winds die down, they start clearing those roads so we can get emergency vehicles in, search and rescue, get to the hospitals and all of that. So we are trying to make sure we're getting all that in place now, continuing to warn the public up until the last minute. When the winds reach 45 miles per hour, sustained, we can no longer respond. Our fire trucks, police cars, locked down in station, and we have to deal with emergencies over the phone. Our 911 operators and our medical director are up there dealing with people that are calling in after the storm with emergencies that we cannot send a vehicle or ambulance out to or a fire truck. They've delivered babies. They've helped people through CPR. They've helped people stop bleeding. And we hope that people don't put themselves in that situation, get to a safe location, stay with friends or family, leave the area if you need to, or as a last resort, go to one of our evacuation centers. There's 12 of them in the county. So that's what we're doing for the next 8 to 12 hours. And then we'll ride out the storm. If it comes over us or through us, when it's over and we can move, we'll send out our rapid impact assessment teams. We'll report back in here what's going on. We'll do search and rescue, and we'll start putting the county back together.
Yeah, absolutely there. And lastly, Do you know, I know it's so hard to pinpoint these things up to the moment that it happens here, but if it does come in your area here, do you know just how long it'll be impacted where, like you said earlier, once it gets to a certain level, there's nothing that you guys can do until after the storm goes through, but do you know how long that time frame might be if it did come through?
Well, not necessarily. There's a lot of factors involved there. Typically, when a storm it makes landfall, as you know, it starts to slow down. It starts to weaken a little bit, but it still has tropical storm force and hurricane force wind. And so we're going to see a lot of damage if this comes through. I'm very concerned about our mobile home residents. Regardless of where that mobile home is in the community, they all fall under level A. Every mobile home resident, RV resident, somebody who lives on a boat in the marina, you need to evacuate because these winds will destroy mobile home parks. We'll have carports, we'll have roofs gone, and it's not a good thing if somebody is in one of those homes when that happens. So we're hoping right now, we're continuing to tell the message, please evacuate.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for your time. I know that you are very, very busy with your staff as well. We are hoping for the very best for Sarasota County and really all of Florida in this next 24 to 48 hours. We really appreciate your time and wishing you the best and stay safe.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You too. All right, everyone, we continue on right here on Live Now from Fox. As you can see, there are still a lot of moving parts. Let's show you once again the track here that we are seeing that continues to show that eastbound, and that is not what officials like Ed wanted to see there. We were hoping that it was going to go more into the Gulf, but now looking more pinpointing to Florida as we are taking a look there just maybe south of Tampa, just in the Sarasota County area, maybe south of that to Fort Myers as well, all in the mix right now. So it is setting up to be a very catastrophic event there with a category 3 to 4 at the time of making landfall. All right, everyone, we are going to continue on here with our coverage like we've been doing all day and really talking about the airport closures that are going to be happening in Tampa, Orlando, and other parts of the state there as right now they are looking at this storm here and bracing for the impact. Also, mandatory evacuations are still underway right now in several counties, and we want to continue to bring our coverage right here for you on Live Now from Fox as we break it all down for you. You're going to get the latest update coming out of Tampa right now, and that is where joined by Fox 13's Regina Gonzalez with the very latest. Regina, how is it looking right now where you're at?
Yeah, Mike, good evening to you. It's looking a bit eerie here, I got to admit. You got a lot of businesses boarding up and shutting down, including our airports, like you just mentioned. So Clearwater St. Pete International, they were already done by this morning. They sent their last commercial flight out around 11 a.m. Eastern time this morning and shut down by 1. Then you've got Tampa International closing within the hour here at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And then Bradenton, Sarasota is going to close at 8 p.m. And then, like you just mentioned, Orlando International, they are going to close tomorrow. So basically, you know, they're saying that this is going to allow crews to prepare the airfields, prepare the terminals, and then get any other remaining planes into shelter. Take a listen.
To my knowledge, we've never had a storm of this magnitude that has impacted us.
Right now, our priority is to protect our employees and our facilities. And after the storm passes, we'll be focused on reopening and reconstituting the airport.
Airports across the Tampa Bay region are suspending operations and halting commercial flights as powerful Hurricane Ian treks towards Florida's Gulf Coast. TPA operations officials held a press conference Tuesday where they assured facilities are built to withstand Category 4 conditions, but storm surge and flooded airfields remain top concerns.
That's all part of being here in Florida. We're ready for it. It's not going to be fun, but we're going to do the best we can. Tampa
General Hospital built a wall of flood prevention aqua fences. St. Pete area hospitals airlifted high-risk patients to safer locations. Empty gas stations and stores are scattered across the region, while local sandbag distribution centers reach capacity on Tuesday after filling more than 50,000 bags since Sunday.
This time, guys, we are going to need this. Take precautions, and if you are in an evacuation zone, get out of your house.
The governor suspending Bay Area tolls as mandatory evacuations in Hillsborough County alone are impacting close to 400,000 residents. Governor DeSantis says the state is now partnering with Expedia to help people with accommodations.
What I can tell you is we've marshaled all the resources available.
Now, Mike, at Tampa International, they're actually going to have about 120 employees that they're calling storm riders do exactly that, stay at the airport during this storm. These are electricians, they're plumbers, and really anybody that could help as soon as possible with power or flooding. And as far as reopening dates, you know, all of these airport officials say that that is to be determined after damage assessments to the grounds. There could be a situation where the runways are flooded and the terminals are not, or vice versa. So it really just depends. And then, you know, you've got a lot of travelers impacted by this. They're saying that you should not use the parking garages for shelter for your cars, that the airport is not a shelter. Tampa International alone saying that even just shutting down for a couple of days is going to have a multi-million-dollar impact. So really, they're just hoping for the best like everybody else, Mike.
Yeah, that is definitely the key. They're hoping for the best there, and we're wishing you and your crew very safe here in the next couple of days as this storm gets closer to you and the rest of Florida. Regina, thanks so much for your update. We always appreciate it right here on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks, Mike. You too. Stay safe.
Of course, we always got you covered right here on Live Now, bringing you the top stories and headlines all over the country here. And we're going to stick with our top story, really, that continues to be a major talker here, especially in the state of Florida, but also in Georgia. I just want to give this breaking news just moments ago. The governor, Brian Kemp, said today, I issued a state of emergency in anticipation of the arrival of Hurricane Ian. And so that is new in the last couple of moments here as well. All right, everyone, we will take a quick 2-minute break. When we come back, we'll check in again with Fox 13 Tampa with their newscast, take a peek in at all of the coverage that they have been doing. Stay right here with us. More to come in just 2.
That can absolutely be life-threatening. Those orders, I think, are not taken lightly. I think that that's what is the best to keep you safe.
A strong warning from Governor DeSantis as Hurricane Ian takes aim at Florida. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Linda Hurtado.
And I'm Chris Cato. Thanks for joining us. Many of you know you're in this situation right now. Tens of thousands of people across the area are being told to evacuate as the hurricane moves closer to the coast.
Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Paul Delgado for the very latest track. Paul.
Yeah, I tell you, there have been changes since last night. We expected some minor track adjustments, and there have been, and we really been harping on this the past couple of days, just the way the steering currents was set up, that minor changes, and we thought last night there was hints that a track to the south would make more sense, and we'll show you that on the graphics in a second. This is, let me get out of the way. You can take a look at it. I mean, look at the lightning around the eye. Whenever you see lightning flashing around the eye of a hurricane, almost always it's an indicator of an intensifying hurricane. I'll get out of the way again. I mean, that is incredible. And Cuba is down here, and Florida's over here, and the storm for now is moving just about due north. This is the more conventional infrared enhanced satellite look, and I mean, you get a perfect circle, you have a well-defined eye. We're gonna have a major hurricane, and we've said this all along. The big picture is pretty clear. Major hurricane in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Now, we'll do a couple things here. This arrow that we drew is due north. So we'll be watching for any deviation to the east or to the west of a due north trajectory. And again, this is our land-based radars. We will watch the eye of the storm essentially from this point until it's no longer visible at all. And so we're going to watch it the whole way. What's good about that is we can see any minor track changes on the way and alert you to any changes. For now, Sky Tower has showers and storms that are developing in heating, like summertime up here, and then about I-4 south, this is rain with Ian that'll continue to slowly spread to the west and northwest. Here are the numbers. Cat 3 now, top winds of 120, moving north at 10, 250 miles south of Sarasota. And the track has been adjusted to the south. Couple things. A faster motion means more than likely this will make landfall as a major hurricane. Anything closest track is important because anything to the landfall point south is where there's going to be the serious and significant storm surge. If this track was to verify, I don't think that storm surge in Tampa Bay and Pinellas is going to be that bad, because here the winds will blow east and northeast. South of the track, the winds go the other way, piling the water onshore. So this track adjustment, as I said yesterday, it's really, really critical to our sensible weather. And for Tampa Bay, this may mean more of an east and northeast wind. That's Tampa Bay north will push the water away, and then for the point of landfall south, the water is pushed onshore. Everybody gets heavy rain. Everybody gets strong winds. We'll talk about specific impacts from Ian coming up at about 4:20. I'll see you then.
Very good, Paul. Thanks. Now to the latest on evacuations. Tens of thousands of residents across the Bay Area are under mandatory evacuation orders right now.
In Hillsborough County, officials expanded the mandatory evacuation order to include Zone B. So that means residents in Zone A, B, and people in mobile homes or low-lying areas have to be evacuated by 9 o'clock tonight, 9 p.m. In Pinellas, it's Zones A, B, and C, all under mandatory evacuation. And access to the barrier islands has been cut off to non-residents or business owners. In Hernando, mandatory evacuations have been issued for all areas west of US 19, which includes Zones A, B, and C, and people in mobile homes. Manatee and Sarasota counties, Zones A and B have been told to evacuate. And in Pasco and Citrus counties, everyone in Zone A is being advised to get out.
Earlier this afternoon, Governor DeSantis spoke in Sarasota, and he urged Floridians to take those evacuation orders seriously. Officials map out those zones for a reason.
There's going to be damage, there's going to be flooding, there'll be wind damage, but those are things that we can fix. It's not necessarily easy to do, but we can do it. You can unring the bell if someone is in a very hazardous situation and then ends up dying because of a really nasty hurricane and storm surge. So please heed the warnings. We want everyone to be safe. We want everyone to get through this. Of course, we have a state of emergency for all 67 counties. We are going to keep that in place. I think.
Well, the governor says more than 2.5 million people are under some type of evacuation order as we speak.
And back to our county-by-county coverage here in Bradenton. Police officers drove through evacuation zones earlier today, telling residents to get out before it's too late. Manatee County has expanded evacuations for zones A and B, as we showed you. Sarasota County has done the same now. Fox 13's Kimberly Quizon joining us live from Sarasota. And Kim, you're under the Ringling Bridge now. That bridge is going to be shut down soon.
Yeah, Chris, it will. The Ringling Bridge and the bridges to go onto Siesta Key will close at 8. At that point, that means no traffic will be allowed onto the barrier islands. Something to keep in mind if you're a resident of Lombo Key or even Anna Maria Island that uses the Ringling Bridge to come into Sarasota County. Now, the water to the barrier islands will also be shut off, and this is preparing for the impacts of Hurricane Ian. Law enforcement does not want anyone out when those winds start to pick up. Yesterday, we were on Anna Maria Island looking at preparations. Today, all throughout Sarasota County, from Siesta Key to downtown and St. Armand Circle, residents and business owners continue to board up, doing whatever they can to protect their homes and their livelihoods. Now, there is concern in the air, but many say you can only do so much preparing.
It's going to be bad, and whatever gets broken, we're going to fix it. And so what we can't
threat at this time. Let's talk timing of the winds now. So let's go down to Fort Myers. You're talking past midnight tonight, right around that time, tropical storm force winds. So now you're talking winds upper 30s to low 40s. Looks a little early to me, but it's going to get close. This thing is speeding up a little bit. You get in the Tampa area. Sarasota is going to be just before sunrise. Tampa area is going to be right around sunrise. Then you get north as it slows down a little bit. You're going to get up towards Orlando and Citrus County. That's not going to be until later in the afternoon. So tropical storm force winds will be overspreading the area throughout the day tomorrow. Well, tonight and tomorrow. This is 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. The yellow is tropical storm force winds. So you see that for the Tampa area. These winds in the orange headed towards Fort Myers and Sanibel, that's 6 a.m. That's 60-mile-per-hour winds or so. All right, hurricane force winds are here in the red. They won't really move on shore down into Sarasota County, Venice area, until it looks like now about 4 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. This, by the way, is a forecast that we get from the Hurricane Center. And you see where they're taking it? You see all the hurricane force winds? Now, Anna Maria, it's blowing from the east, northeast. Venice is blowing from the southwest, right? Counterclockwise flow. Look at Tampa. That's a northeast wind coming across the bay. That blows water out, but that puts quite a bit of wind over in the St. Pete side, on the east side of Pinellas County here. Right, so you initially have some water pushed up against the land before it can get out into the bay and out into really the Gulf of Mexico. This is 2 a.m. Thursday morning. This is tomorrow night into Thursday morning. You see 60-mile-per-hour winds, 50 to 60s are spreading inland, and the hurricane is actually shrinking. The hurricane force winds will be shrinking. But still, look at this. I mean, we could easily see hurricane force winds, which is 74 miles per hour or higher, especially from Tampa southeast through Hillsborough County, Manatee, Hardee County, and then into southern Polk County. All right, we're going to carry this out a little bit toward 10 a.m. on Thursday. You see how it's shrinking, right? When hurricanes move on shore and they weaken, the wind field, especially the yellow that you see here, it spreads out as it weakens. So you get less of this high wind, you get a little bit more of this, and you get a lot more of that. So it's going to be a windy day either way, all the way through Thursday. You can almost see it expanding out here. And that's just something that happens when hurricanes fall apart. Now, this is 6 p.m., center near Orlando. That's Thursday. That's 50 to 60 mile per hour winds with higher gusts in that area. You still see we've got tropical storm force winds back in the Tampa area. Remember, the wind's going like this, right? It's going to be going like that, okay? So, and that stays around the center like that. So as you look at that timing, you got to keep that in mind, and that's what the winds are going to do. All right, now let's talk wind speeds. This is tonight at 10 o'clock. Not bad. Pick a city. Teens, right? Most areas are looking good. Let's go to 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. Starting to see some winds in the 20s. It's a northeast wind. St. Pete's going to have more wind than anybody else just because it's coming across the open bay right there, right? But getting breezy by sunrise. This is sunrise right here. We're in the mid-20s for sustained winds. Lakeland a little less than that. Now, going through the morning hours on Wednesday, this is 11 a.m., that's when we really start to see the winds pick up. Now, Hurricane Center says we could have 40 mile per hour winds already. I think we'll have gusts there, certainly by 11 o'clock, but the sustained winds will still be in the 30s. And then here we go into the afternoon. Sustained winds, you can see they're starting to turn a little bit more to the northeast in Sarasota. Same thing in St. Pete, but well into the 40s. Tampa, that looks a little low for me, but still, you get the idea. Now look at this. Look at that. This is our model we run here at the station, but it's got the center coming in down here, moving across southern Manatee and right across Hardy County, right? And then look at all the wind flowing around it in that direction there. So Sarasota's got sustained in the 50s with gusts in the 60s and 70s. And you know what? St. Pete, Tampa, all these are very similar to that as well. Little less as you get closer to the immediate coast. Now, when we get to Thursday morning before sunrise, the wind's going to start to turn. Here along the coast, it's going to turn to the north and then a little northwest down in Sarasota. That's a pretty good wind. And when Irma did this, it was a similar location here. We had some really high gusts out here because it's coming across the Gulf and there's nothing to slow it down. So yeah, winds will slow a little bit, upper 30s to low 40s, but I think it's going to be really gusty on Thursday morning here along the immediate coast, and the tides are going to be running higher because of that. Initially, the tide will get blow out, and then it'll come back a little bit. I don't think it's going to be terrible. It's not going to be a major surge issue at that point. And then we get into Thursday morning, 11 a.m., and things are starting to quiet down. Here we go to Thursday afternoon, 6 p.m. You can see our winds are all coming back down. All right, now, let's show you what that forecast model I just showed you. Here's what it looks like if you were looking at the radar. First of all, we've got a tornado watch down south right now. These outer rain bands you see here will produce tornadoes. Some of them will. Okay, not all of it, but we will have a tornado threat through tomorrow midday at least. Here is tonight, well, tomorrow morning at, let me back this up. I didn't put a stop here. This is 3 in the morning. See the rain bands coming through here over Tampa, over Manatee, Sarasota, Polk. Look at the Highlands County. That's a tornado threat, so it's in the middle of the night. Please make sure you have your weather radio ready to go, right? That thing's going to be going off tonight. Then we get tomorrow morning around 9:30 in the morning. There's the eye. It's very close to Fort Myers and Sanibel. Sanibel's right there, all right? Very heavy rainfall and some gusty winds. We're thinking sustained winds in Tampa in the 30s at that point, but pushing through there with east to northeast winds. Now, this is 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday. So basically Wednesday during the day, the weather's going to go downhill all day. It'll just get more rain. We'll get heavier winds and higher gusts throughout the day. 41 mile per hour winds is what the model's saying, gusts in the 50s and 60s. Very heavy rainfall. See where the center is down here? Look where all the heavy rainfall is. It's here. It's north and west of the center. Okay, so that's going to be pushing all that heavy rain through the area during the day on Wednesday. Now, Wednesday evening, it's wrapping this heavy rain on the back side, so now you continue to see rain right in here. Tampa, St. Pete, Bradenton, Sarasota, Pasco County, most of Hillsborough County, all of Pinellas County. Most of our area is going to get very, very heavy rainfall. It's been raining. Let me go back. This is 11:30 p.m. Wednesday. Let's go back to the sunrise. Look at the rain already starting sunrise, and then look all day through 11:30. Very heavy rainfall. So that's, almost 24 hours of very heavy rainfall, especially for Tampa and points northward, Pasco, Hernando, Citrus. Okay, and then here is 5 o'clock in the morning on Thursday morning. Center's up there northwest of Orlando, somewhere in this area, and you can see the rain is tapering off because remember that dry air is coming in behind it. So breezy and drier. It's actually going to feel, hate to say this, but it's going to feel comfortable. Don't really hate to say that, but it's going to feel comfortable on the backside Thursday and into Thursday night and Friday because we'll have the drier air behind it. Now, I can't stress this enough. We still, because the storm surge threat has come down for the Tampa area, down to 4 to 7, which is still high, but I think that's going to come down a touch. Rainfall flooding is going to be a major issue. If you live in an area that floods because of heavy rain, you're likely to have some flooding issues through the day on Wednesday into Wednesday night. All right? 15 to 20 inches. Some areas could see almost 2 feet, 24, 25 inches of rainfall. This has shifted a little bit to the south. Manatee, Sarasota County, southeastern Hillsborough, western Polk County. But there's going to be very, very heavy rainfall in here. The rivers will flood, and it takes time for those rivers to flood. I'm kind of really concerned about the Anclote River because I think that we could see heavier rain in that area. So if you live along the Anclote, but even Myakka, of course, all these rivers down here, which are basically all at flood stage now, and the storm hasn't even gotten here, please make plans to evacuate if you haven't. Or at least keep a very close eye on those river levels. They will be swelling, they will be flooding in a pretty bad style by the time we get towards Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and probably take through all next week to gradually come down. Okay, so the river flooding always lags the actual rainfall by a day or two. But that is going to be one of the major issues that we have out there. Okay, that's it for right now. We're about 4:34. Let me see if I can get to some of your questions. I want to keep the radar up right here so you can see it. Praying that the worst stays out of Tampa. It looks like the rain will be the worst part. Yeah, it probably will be, I think. But we're certainly going to get some gusty winds. And, you get that saturated ground, which we pretty much have, and you add wind on it, you're going to have a lot of trees down. So we're going to have some power outages, obviously. So get those things charged up. Everything that you can charge up, you want to get charged up right now while you can. Let's see some other questions here. What does the flooding risk mean in terms of danger? Well, flooding is the number one killer of weather-related deaths. It's the number one weather-related death. Some kind of water, anything involving water. So, yeah, usually you don't drive through water that you don't know how deep it is. You just turn around, don't drown. That's the saying that we always say. And if you're in an area, as I said, that you're known to flood, it's prone to flood when you have heavy rainfall, not storm surge, or both, but certainly rainfall is what we're talking about right now. Then that is going to have an issue. Don't want it here in Bradenton either. That's right. Yeah, that's the thing when it shifts from one place to another, the people in the one place are thinking, oh, thank goodness. But the people in the other place are like, oh, no, we don't want it. And that is the nature of it, yeah. I saw a comment today, somebody was talking about it. I wish everybody would, because when the track was trying to take it up right into Tampa like this, that's the worst case scenario for storm surge because you get the storm surge blowing right into the bay, right? And that really hasn't happened. We had a similar setup in 1946. It wasn't as strong of a storm, but yesterday it was looking like the 1921 Tarpon Springs hurricane, and that's the last time we had a major hit right in that sweet spot that floods us really bad up inside the bay. And so I got a note from a guy today that says, well, why is nobody talking about Donna? And I'm tired of hearing people say it's 100 years since we've had this type of hurricane. Well, Donna went inland. Donna did something like this. And so Donna is one that would blow water out of the bay. Okay, when we say that 100-year storm, the 101, it was 1921, right? We're talking about a storm that comes in up here, and the counterclockwise flow around it pours water right into the bay. And what happened was, this thing is drawing way off the bat here, but it made landfall right at Tarpon Springs, and so that was the worst case scenario. And that's what we're referring to there. Oh, good question. Will the rain produce flooding like Houston a few years ago or just driving hazards? There'll be some areas that have some flooding, but nothing like Hurricane Charlie. Hurricane Charlie had 45 to 60 inches of rainfall. It sat over top of the area and went around in a circle for 4 days. This will not do that. This will slow down a little bit, but it will not do that. So I don't expect that type of flooding, but certainly we're going to have some areas that get water, you know, because you just live in a low-lying area and it doesn't handle water very well. So we will have some of that. And again, I can't stress those rivers flooding later in this event. This is my first hurricane that we were staying put. Will Pasco get heavy winds? Yes. Yes, if you saw what the map that I was showing you, the winds that we're thinking there in Pasco, right now you have a tropical storm warning. So that would mean winds of about 40 to maybe 50 mile per hour winds with some higher gusts. You get down in the Tampa, Pinellas, Hillsborough area, Polk County, now you're talking some hurricane force winds. Generally, I would say those winds would be in the 50s, with perhaps in the 60s, with gusts in the 70s, perhaps into the 80s. Hernando covered the same thing. You're very welcome, Elizabeth. I hope you do very well with all of this. I'm sure everybody will do pretty good. Just, you know, take it easy out there. It's not fun, you know, but we'll get through this together. It's fine, you know. It's, you know, it's just one of those things, man. And as a meteorologist, we kind of dread this, right? You know, when I was young, I wanted to get out and cover these things and go see them, and I'm still interested in them, don't get me wrong, but, you know, as a property owner, you don't want to see this, right? You don't want to see this. And after so many years of doing this, you don't want to see people get hurt by this and their property get damaged too. So we're hoping for the best, hoping this thing just falls apart. I don't think that's going to happen, but definitely think we're going to have some area get hit hard. How bad do you think it will be in Ocala? Oh, that's a good question. Not terrible in Ocala. Tropical storm force winds. Always a tornado threat. Look, there's pretty much a tornado threat. There's the tornado watch that's right now, right? And the storm could go something like this. So that tornado watch is pretty much going to come just like that over the next 24 hours, right? So pretty much everybody's going to see it. When the center of the storm gets by you, like north of you or with you, then it will go away. Not go away, but then the threat will go away, okay? There's a closer eye look at it. You can see, look at Key West, man, watching this thing go by. And take a look at that. You can see, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. You can see how this thing has jogged throughout the day today, and it usually does that. And it's probably always doing that when we are watching it via satellite, but you can see it so much better when you're looking at it on the radar. So we're about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so away from a 5 o'clock update, which should give us a new track. Again, right now you can see the track is taking it in somewhere around Sarasota. Let's see if they shift that for the 5 o'clock. In fact, I think it's a little less than that. Before I let you go, I want to show you Mount Dora. Mount Dora looks like you've got tropical storm force winds coming through with heavy rainfall, tornado threat. I think most of the hurricane force winds will have fallen apart by the time it gets to Mount Dora. But could you get a gust in the 70s? Yeah, certainly could. Minnesota Key, I think you really need to watch that because you're going to be pretty close to some good storm surge. I think that's in the 8 to 12 area for storm surge. The highest, I think, that 12 is going to be down towards Port Charlotte area and Sanibel. Although Sanibel kind of gets it's a little side shore there, but you're still going to get a ton of a surge there. Speaking of surge, let me see if I can show you that here. Let's go to Max. What do we got here? Okay, tornado watch. Looks like they just issued a new one. Let me keep you right here for a minute. Where's our tornado watch? Did they extend it? There they go. So, yeah, look at that. How's that for timing? So you get the idea. Was this one here? Now they've extended up to here, and they're going to continue to do that and take it up here. I do think the better chance initially late tonight and early tomorrow morning before the sun comes up in the Tampa area and Polk County, and then it's going to be over on the East Coast here. Okay, so that is the latest tornado watch. Real fast, I want to show you some of the well, you're not seeing it now. How about that? You are not seeing it. Okay, I can't show you that. All right, I'll take you back there. But what I was going to show you is some of the surge products that are coming out right now, and it looks like, again, that biggest chance for surge is going to be from Longboat Key southward down towards the Sanibel area. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. We've got a 5 o'clock update now. We will be doing the 5 o'clock show here at WTSP from the station through 6:30. We have a crew already over at our backup. Now, we've had backup plans forever because we live, our station's right here on the water on the Gandy Bridge area in Pinellas County. So we have to evacuate. Thinking we probably will be okay here now, but we're still evacuating because we need to. Number one, we're being asked to. And number two, we will have to keep everybody safe just in case. We will be broadcasting from there. We will likely start tomorrow morning at 4 in the morning or so and just go wall to wall from then. So as soon as you wake up tomorrow morning, you may start to hear some storms out there. You may start to hear, not a lot of thunder. We don't get a lot of thunderstorms in hurricanes, believe it or not. But we do get a lot of rain. We do get some tornadoes in there. And the winds will just gradually be increasing. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, go ahead and turn us on, and we'll be basically covering this through the duration, through at least, I would say, midday on Thursday. Okay, guys, that's it. Don't forget all of our social media platforms on 10 Tampa Bay. Mine as well, too, Bobby Deskins Weather. And don't forget my YouTube page, same thing, Bobby Deskins Weather. See you at 5 o'clock, guys. Finish up those preps. Get everything done by 5 o'clock today if you can.
The Ukrainian armed forces managed to regain operational initiative vis-à-vis Russian, the best trained and the best equipped troops. And they proved to be victorious in this effort. So, the only way to change the course of events was the mobilization. Whether it's a very promising move from the military point of view, I'm not a military analyst, but following common sense, it doesn't seem a very good solution, because if the Ukrainians manage to defeat well-trained and well-equipped Russian soldiers, what do you think? What's the chance that those who are worse trained, obviously, and so far we see it, certainly, at least for some time, worse equipped, are going to prevail? But you're asking a difficult question, because I suppose that so it's rather unreasonable to expect a breakthrough at the battlefields in Ukraine in the result of the mobilization. But I would expect a true breakthrough, if at all, at the domestic front in Russia, because it's more than obvious that Russian society, which so far has been supporting the idea of war in Ukraine, between 70 and 80% of them, they were identified themselves with the Russian leadership in supporting the war, but they didn't consider it their own personal war. The war was taking place somewhere relatively far away from Russian borders. But now, in the result of the mobilization, each and every Russian family would be forced to think and to discuss the reasonable, discuss the reason for this war, because their loved ones are going to be sent there to be killed or wounded, but rather not be victorious there. And this is something that obviously we see the first signs of it. Will start first private social debate, social discourse, which sooner or later will certainly become public.
So, yes, let's talk a bit about the internal situation within Russia and situation Putin finds himself in. I completely agree with you that mobilizing and we have our own experience with the social discord that having a draft and calling people up. But in our experience in Vietnam, that happened over time. It was sort of slowly introduced, also at recruiting ages of younger people, not men in their 30s and 40s that have families and are the breadwinners of their family unit, then suddenly being pulled to the battlefield with having children to care for. It strikes me as extremely creating tremendous upheaval in Russia, and doing so without mobilizing for war, but for a special military operation. Do you think that this could lead to real trouble for Vladimir Putin in his internal situation? How do you assess the internal stability of that regime?
Well, before I try to answer your question, I have to disagree with you. Of course, you are referring to the American experience in the late 60s and in the early 70s. So I was around at that time. So first of all, I wouldn't compare the. Okay, there was a common draft at that time in the United States. That's true, but this is the only element of this common denominator you are talking about. Because when you think how, at that time, how the mobilization was conducted,
right,
with which means in following what kind of procedures. Of course, some of the young people who disagreed as citizens with the idea that it made sense to fight over in Vietnam for the cause that was not clear to everyone. It was clear to people in my country, I assure you. But the reaction was that a small number, a small percentage of young people were driving to Canada, for example, right? But you cannot compare that with a sudden exodus at the Russian borders with Kazakhstan, with Georgia, with Finland. On the other hand, at that time in your country, mass demonstrations were taking place, and they were protected by the police force rather than contained or dispersed, right? So, and the other thing, in today's Russia, if you compare the number of young people who are leaving Russia at any price to those who are demonstrating publicly, so there is no comparison here in terms of numbers. Now, going back to your main question. Well, I don't want to speculate, quite frankly, because you can assume that polls are not very objective on such issues as predicting the internal social developments in Russia. But one thing is more than obvious already now. The way the Russian authorities, the Russian state agendas, Russian institutions, which means the part of the Russian state, are handling the mobilization issue and the protests indicates something that we already know about the Russian military forces. It's not a well-ordered, functional
we can certainly see if we have a better estimate and get back to you.
Just to follow up.
I just
I'm sorry.
I just follow that.
I just want to return to what Peter had asked about Governor DeSantis. In the past, President Biden, has made calls to governors in situations of natural disasters. Kay Ivey in Alabama, Asa Hutchinson in Arkansas, or the governor in Texas. Is there any? Can you articulate, I guess, how those those determinations are made and why it hasn't been made in this case to have the president call the governor?
Yeah, the president is very focused on making sure that the federal family has the right resources available to support this. That is why I contacted the governor right away, and we have a team of my senior leadership that are embedded with the governor to make sure that we're supporting that. Our focus today is making sure that we have the right measures in place to support the life-saving activities that need to happen. Any conversations afterwards will need to be, we need to see what the damages are.
But he's made conversations with the mayors, so is there any reason why not the governor?
Again, we have a strong team that's in place supporting the governor right now, working side by side with him and his staff. We'll continue to stay engaged with him.
Go ahead. Just a follow-up to that. Normally, presidents call governors or the governors call presidents, but the only thing that really, during hurricanes, the only real question I really want answered is it in any way the fact that they haven't talked? Is there any way that it's impeded efforts of the federal government or FEMA to implement plans in Florida? And if so, what would they be?
No, we are very focused on what the needs of Florida is right now. We do not bring politics into our ability to respond to these disasters. We are going to support whatever Governor DeSantis asks of us. We signed his emergency declaration within hours of him sending it in. We'll continue to do that as we see what the impacts of this storm are.
So the communication between the president and the governor has no impact on how you all operate?
Zero.
Just on the trajectory of the storm, I know you said that you expect it to make landfall somewhere on the west coast. Is there an expectation that that could change in the coming, day or two? And if it were to make landfall somewhere else that isn't the area you described, what steps would need to be taken in order for those resources, I guess, to get quickly moved to other areas? And is the agency preparing for that?
Yeah, I think that's an important question, right? We have a tendency to really focus on the cone and where it's going to make landfall. But as I talked about in my remarks, we are going to see impacts across the state of Florida, whether it's inland flooding from the large amount of rain that we're going to see, tornadoes and tornado watches that we may see in the southern part of the state later today, to the storm surge and the hurricane force winds that may impact the communities near landfall. We are postured and we are moving our equipment in a place that can support all parts of Florida because we know that there are going to be impacts across the state.
And just in terms of the agency's resources, FEMA has obviously been involved in working with the issue of influx of migrants across the country. Has that in any way put a strain on the agency and its resources and personnel, or do you at this moment feel like you have what you need to do that as well as natural disaster relief work?
Yeah, the resources that we are providing to support the influx of the migrant flow is through a program called our Emergency Food and Shelter Program. It's a reimbursable grant program, and that's the main source of our involvement right now.
When you talk about complacency, what are you concerned about? Are people refusing to heed evacuation orders?
Yeah, what I worry about when I think about complacency is that if it's been a near miss in the past, they feel like they can just ride this out. I've been through this before, and I've had no issues, and so I can do it again. That's a dangerous way to think. You need to listen to your local officials because the storm surge, 10 feet, maybe in some areas higher, is going to be significant, and you put 20 inches of rain on top of that inland, you need to be able to listen to your local officials, right? And I think what we have and what we see is people that have not had any impacts, they think that that's not going to happen again. Take it seriously. Do not underestimate the potential that this storm can bring.
Okay, lastly.
That was the FEMA updates at the White House earlier today. Of course, we always got you covered here on Live Now from Fox. We are going to take our final break here of this hour, and when we come back, we'll have the very latest from Fox 13 in Tampa as their team continues to track Hurricane Ian. Welcome back, everyone. Here to Live Now from Fox. We always appreciate you joining us here in real time here as we are taking a live track look there of Hurricane Ian. We continue to look for more updates throughout the evening here. We are going to be your source of all information coming from our teams in Fox 13 in Tampa, Fox 35 in Orlando, as well as guest opportunities from experts around the country with hurricanes. Let's give you a live look right now at some of the video that we are seeing from Tampa area right now as tracking Ian continues, and these images obviously will change in the next 24 hours as it gets closer to the Tampa, Sarasota region right now. And in just a moment, we will go out to Fox 13 Tampa, their coverage for the 5 p.m. Eastern. That is coming up in just moments here. But yeah, this is something that we have been really tracking the last couple of days and really have been bringing you coverage throughout the day today. We have not shown a different story here and really breaking it all down in real time for you as we continue to talk to experts from around the country and especially in the Tampa and Orlando area, giving us these updates all in real time. But right now we are going to go out to Fox 13 in Tampa. They are covering it, and this is the top there of their newscast coming in just moments right here on Live Now from Fox.
A lot of us in the next 24 to 36 hours. So let's get right to meteorologist Tyler Eliason for the latest on Hurricane Ian.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I'd say unfortunately, everything is kind of going according to plan with the intensification of Ian. Overnight, crossed over western Cuba. Today, it's a strong Cat 3. Winds are up to 120 miles per hour. You notice the eye wall here kind of shrinking a little bit over the last few scans, and that is a sign of typically an eye wall replacement cycle. So over the next few hours, intensity will probably kind of sit where it is and then may get some further intensification as that eye wall really starts to reform. We'll see how that plays out. Everything kind of plays a role at this point as far as up and down intensity-wise, and certainly any little shift in its motion. We put this white line here to just give you an idea of due north motion right now. There's certainly little wobbles here and there, but what we'll look for is at what point this really starts to deviate and move a little more east of due north. That, of course, is going to dictate landfall point down the road. I know it sounds like crazy that just a little bit of a bump all of a sudden means it's hitting here versus here. You know, that all is going to be key as we lead up to landfall at some point on Wednesday evening. We're now getting hourly advisories, at least updating position and intensity fixes. We'll get a new track with the 5 o'clock advisory. For now, winds are at 120. Motion is still due north. Pressure's down to 952. As the pressure falls, it always takes a little bit for the wind speed to catch up. So undoubtedly, I think this at some point late tonight or early Wednesday will become a Cat 4. The track is still not completely set in stone. There's a cone here for a reason. Much smaller cone than we had a couple of days ago, but it's there for a reason because still this kind of thing still possible, and that's going to play a big role with surge especially. Paul's been talking about that so far over the last 30 minutes or so. We'll continue to harp on that because, again, a landfall point here puts 8 to 12 feet of surge into most of Sarasota County and not much at all around Tampa Bay, maybe a couple of feet. It's all about that exact landfall point. So you kind of take these numbers with a grain of salt. Count on the winds for sure. I'd say even 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts for Tampa Bay southward near the coastline. Highest surge, again, will be south of the bay if the track sticks like it is now. Gusts a little bit less if you're further north, but still nothing to scoff at. Over 60 miles per hour, 60 to 80, I'd say. Very little surge along the Nature Coast. A lot of heavy rain. Flooding rain is going to be an issue with this. Some spots could easily see close to 2 feet of rain in a couple localized spots, and that is going to be a big-time problem. Tornado threat, always a problem in tornadoes as well. We'll talk more about these impacts, and, of course, that 5 o'clock update coming up in about 30 minutes or so. Guys?
Everyone's waiting for that. All right, thank you, Tyler. Well, the window for flying out has just about officially closed. Airports across the Bay Area have either already shut down or are about to shut down as they prepare for Hurricane Ian. Fox 13's Regina Gonzalez joins us now live from Tampa with the latest. Regina?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Chris. So Clearwater St. Pete, they were done early this morning. They had their last commercial flight leave a little after 11 a.m. and then they shut their doors at 1 in the afternoon. You've got Tampa International closing within the half hour at 5 p.m. and then Bradenton, Sarasota officially shutting down at 8 p.m. And then we did just get word that Orlando out there northeast is going to be shutting down tomorrow. So really all of these officials are saying that this is going to allow crews to prepare the terminals, prepare the airfields, and then get any remaining planes into shelter.
To my knowledge, we've never had a storm of this magnitude that has impacted us.
Right now, our priority is to protect our employees and our facilities. And after the storm passes, we'll be focused on reopening and reconstituting the airport.
Airports across the Tampa Bay region are suspending operations and halting commercial flights as powerful Hurricane Ian treks towards Florida's Gulf Coast. TPA operations officials held a press conference Tuesday where they assured facilities are built to withstand Category 4 conditions, but storm surge and flooded airfields remain top concerns.
That's all part of being here in Florida. We're ready for it. It's not going to be fun, but we're going to do the best we can.
Tampa General Hospital built a wall of flood prevention aqua fences. St. Pete area hospitals airlifted high-risk patients to safer locations. Empty gas stations and stores are scattered across the region, while local sandbag distribution centers reached capacity on Tuesday after filling more than 50,000 bags since Sunday.
This time, guys, we are going to need this. Take precautions, and if you are in an evacuation zone, get out of your house.
The governor suspending Bay Area tolls as mandatory evacuations in Hillsborough County alone are impacting close to 400,000 residents. Governor DeSantis says the state is now partnering with Expedia to help people with accommodations.
What I can tell you is we've marshaled all the resources available.
Now, Tampa International is actually going to have about 120 storm riders doing just that, staying at the facilities during the storm. They're plumbers, electricians, and really anybody who could help out immediately if they lose power or get flooding. The airport, Tampa International, says that just closing with these next few days is going to have a multi-million-dollar economic impact. So really, they're just hoping for the best, Chris.
Yeah, anyone who's flown out of TPA knows how close those runways are to old Tampa Bay there. So storm surge is something that's certainly on their minds, and let's hope they all fare well during whatever the hurricane brings. Thanks, Regina.
All right, let's go.
5 o'clock advisory just in Category 3. No real big change in intensity for now as it undergoes what we call an eye wall replacement cycle. But there's been changes since we saw you last night in the sense we're more confidence of a track also south of Tampa Bay, but also the environment from where it is now to the point of landfall. Last night, a lot of you said, how come it's going from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1? It's because we expected there to be some dry air and some shear. Now, because of a faster motion and a track a bit to the south, that's not going to show up. So this is a big problem, and I think I'll show you why. I just looked at this a second ago. We had a Category 4. Top winds 130 that'll be near, probably close to Sanibel or Captiva or Fort Myers, or maybe even Northport, southern Sarasota County. I mean, we can't really pinpoint it this close, but you get the idea. It's going to be making landfall someplace just south of us, and everything to the right of this, and probably going to have a catastrophic storm surge. I mean, you're talking 10 feet of water that it's going to move on shore, and then right around the eye wall in the core where that comes on shore, there's going to be a lot of damage. There's no doubt about that. I mean, northwest and west, we talk about storm surge, and we've been harping on this. You know, when storms move onshore, it is everything to the right where the winds come up from the south or southwest. Everything from the left or the west, the winds go the other way. So north of where the storm is, I just don't see a big storm surge problem, and that includes Tampa Bay. And I know a lot of you are nervous about Barrier Islands out in Pinellas. There's going to be some water, especially as the storm approaches, but I mean, you can't get a storm surge when you get constant east-northeast winds. You just can't. When the storm goes by, the water may try to come back, but this is the point of landfall in east or south where it's typically the worst. This is the enhanced satellite view and getting almost close now to the latitude of Key West, and we're watching this on land-based radars. You can see this big gap here. That is the eye wall replacement cycle that is underway, and our Sky Tower radar is showing this rain for about I-4 south. This is all rain from Ian. This is rain from like summertime, from heating. That's moving to the west. Once it starts raining, it's pretty much going to rain nonstop for about 2 days, and rainfall potential is up to 2 to 3 feet in some spots. There's a lot more to go. We'll keep you updated. Next update coming up at 5:20. Back to you.
All right, Paul, thank you. Evacuation orders have been changing rapidly. Just today, Hillsborough and Sarasota expanded its mandatory orders to now include Zone B.
So here's the latest information for those of you living in those areas. Hillsborough County residents in Zone A, B, and if you live in a mobile home or a low-lying area, you're being asked to evacuate by 9 o'clock tonight. Pinellas County, Zones A, B, and C, all under evacuation order. Hernando County, mandatory evacuations issued there for all areas west of US 19, and that includes Zones A, B, and C. Now, Manatee and Sarasota counties, Zones A and B have been told to evacuate, and Pasco and Citrus counties, everybody in Zone A advised to get out.
As of 5 o'clock, Tampa International Airport and the St. Pete Clearwater Airport are closed. They've both suspended operations in order to give staff enough time to secure aircrafts and ground equipment. It's still too early to know when the airports will reopen. They'll begin damage assessment once it's safe to do so and make a decision then. And on our roads, this is a look at I-4, and you can see cars moving pretty good, but on the other side you see the backup trying to head east. Slowdowns are happening on most of our interstates, and the governor is coordinating with FDOT to open the shoulders along some of the roads like I-75 to help with increased traffic flow. Tolls have also been suspended to help evacuees.
So let's get to our county by county coverage. You just saw that slight change in the track, and now it appears that Sarasota and Manatee counties are more at risk. And because of that, Sarasota Airport's closing at 8 o'clock. The bridges out to all the islands, they're going to be shut down to traffic going on to the barrier islands. Fox 13's Kimberly Quizon live right there at the Ringling Bridge, one of the bridges that will be closing at some point this evening, and nobody else can get out there. Is that right?
Yes, Cynthia, that's right. We already saw Sarasota police out here. They are limiting who can get onto the barrier islands at this point, that being residents only. You must show your address if you're going back over into Lombo Key or even Anna Maria Island. But by 8 o'clock tonight, those bridges will be shut down to any oncoming traffic to the barrier islands. Of course, if you're still out there and you decide that you want to leave, you can still get off. But out here, we're starting to feel the temperature change as well. This morning when we woke up, it was muggy. It's still muggy now, but the temperature is definitely starting to get a little cooler. And you can see right back here, there are people out here fishing as they kind of get in those last couple hours before we need to be where we are at. And officials are really stressing the importance of being where you need to be by sundown tonight. They say we will begin to experience tropical storm force winds by the late evening, and they do not want people driving around as conditions begin to worsen. Today, Manatee and Sarasota counties expanded their evacuations, like you said, to now include level A and B. The bridges to barrier islands will be shut down to all traffic in both counties. Again, that's the traffic trying to get onto the barrier islands as we begin to prepare for the storm to move into our area.
This is a serious storm. It is not to be taken lightly. I know. I've been in the Tampa Bay area for decades too, and it seems like we always luck out. Do not count on us lucking out with this storm.
Plan for the worst and hope for the best, but I think that people should heed the warnings and do what you can to take yourself out of harm's way, and be calm and be kind.
Definitely be kind. A good message for tonight. And people are taking the storm seriously. We've seen today from Gulf Gate to Siesta Key, downtown Sarasota and St. Armands, there are many windows that have been boarded up and sandbags have been placed. And it is really hard to think about what could happen, especially now that we're looking at that storm track coming to Manatee, Sarasota counties. But like so many people have said today, things can be replaced, people cannot. Cynthia, back to you.
Absolutely, which is why you just got to go if you live in those barrier islands, especially. Thanks, Kim. Also, as we go a little further south now to Venice, we just got this alert. That city shutting off water to the island starting 8 o'clock tonight. Venice under an evacuation order. And again, they're going to shut the water down tonight at 8 o'clock.
To Pinellas County now, where thousands of residents are being urged to evacuate, but some are still planning to ride out the storm. Fox 13's Aaron Mesmer watched as they made those last-minute preparations. He's live in St. Pete. What's the situation like now, Aaron?
Well, Linda, downtown St. Pete would normally be busy this time of day, but take a look over here behind me. The sundial, I mean, most people would recognize this area here. It's a ghost town now. A lot of people have boarded up these stores, these restaurants, and a lot of them have headed out of town. Business owners aren't taking any chances with Hurricane Ian. They're boarding up, while drivers, fearing gas shortages, are filling up their tanks one last time.
Filling up with gas, making sure we got plenty of food and water, everything charged up.
And deciding if or when to leave town, depending on their evacuation zone.
We've been through a few storms here. We feel pretty safe.
I still haven't decided what I'm going to do. Whether I'm going to stay put, I live right around here, or if I'm going to leave.
Meanwhile, St. Pete Public Works crews are also making last-minute preparations and asking residents to limit water use during the storm.
We are asking you not to do the unessential things such as clothes washing or dishwashing, so that we can then have the system ready to hit the ground running and be fully operational when those that have evacuated return.
The U.S. Coast Guard in St. Pete is urging residents to take evacuation orders seriously. The storm surge and rain could cause massive floods.
Number one priority will be search and rescue. As soon as the storm passes, we have our boats and planes pre-positioned to respond to those in need.
The Coast Guard is also telling boaters to dock their vessels on higher ground immediately.
When you're talking about seas in excess of even 10 feet, for most of our recreational boating public, you do not want to be on the waters, and we're looking at potentially seas 2 to 3 times that height.
And that's a potentially devastating prediction that has some homeowners on edge.
Stay inside, listen to the news, and do what they tell you to do.
Yeah, and Pinellas County has had wastewater overflows over the years due to rainstorms, due to tropical storms, hurricanes, that sort of thing. St. Pete's Public Works Administrator says he's confident that a lot of the upgrades that have been made over the last 5, 6, 7 years will prevent, he hopes, that sort of thing from happening this time around. But Linda, he says conserving water, not washing dishes during the storm, not washing laundry during the storm, that kind of thing will help them keep the system up and running during and after Hurricane Ian.
Yeah, something that many people might not have thought of, so good that we're pointing it out. Thanks. Well, access to the barrier islands in Pinellas County have also been restricted. Deputies are closing entrances from Tierra Verde to the Dunedin Causeway. Residents can still evacuate, but no one will be allowed to enter until after the storm passes.
And as we mentioned earlier, Hillsborough County officials have upgraded Zone B to mandatory evacuation. That means if you live in Zone A and B, you're being urged to leave if you haven't already. Fox 13's Gloria Gomez is live now on Davis Islands. How's it looking out there? Do you think everybody did heed the warning?
You know, it's pretty bleak right now. I don't see a lot of people actually driving around much. So it looks like people are heeding the warning. I could tell you, Cynthia, that earlier today we found a family who decided they were going to take a flight to Washington, D.C., but that was canceled at the last minute. So they had to find another way of getting around and actually finding a safe place for them. They decided, in fact, to pack up and go somewhere else. But Nicole Cooney was saying that, yeah, once she heard the evacuation orders this morning for Zone B, she decided, you know what, it was time to go. Take a look.
So today we are evacuating from the storm. We've had to make a few change of plans over the past few days, but we feel like we have a good plan and we're headed out here shortly. With the kids, I don't want to take any risks, so we're packing up everything, got everything up off the floor in the house, and hope everything's looking good when we come back.
And let's hope that it does. Keep in mind that Sheriff Chronister telling us this morning during a press conference that he does believe that people are heeding the warning. He said he watched last night as bumper-to-bumper traffic leaving on I-4, and he said that was really the first time that he actually really was happy to see traffic on I-4. And so maybe it is a good sign, Cynthia, that people are finally around here heeding the warning. Back to you.
I think you may be right. When I came in today, it was a little bit like a ghost town out on Kennedy. So I think people may have listened and got out of town. So thank you, Gloria. Information about evacuations and closures, it is constantly changing. So keep an eye on that scroll that you see right there at the bottom of your screen, because it's constantly being updated.
And when we are not on air, you can also find updates online at fox13news.com. Now, we have a county-by-county breakdown for information like shelter locations and closures. There's also some changes to hospital operations and public transportation routes. And you can find all that information there. And if you click on the weather tab or go to myfoxhurricane.com, you can find the latest on Ian's track.
Okay, we thank Fox 13 in Tampa there for all the latest coverage as we continue to track Hurricane Ian. We're going to take a quick commercial break. I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks so much for being with us here on this very busy Tuesday. When we come back, though, we'll be going out to downtown Tampa. That is where Fox News multimedia reporter Austin Westfall is standing by, so we're going to be speaking to him in about 2 minutes' time. We also want to preview, we just got the podium shot up there. And we're expecting to hear from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in yet another news briefing on Hurricane Ian in about 10 minutes' time. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. On this Tuesday afternoon, we have about 4 Live Now looks there in places all across Florida that are going to be soon facing the onslaught of Category 3 Hurricane Ian as it makes its way to western Florida right now. I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks so much for being with us here. Take a look at our X-Rad weather system as well. You can see the path for yourself. Remember, last night at this same time, we were talking about the cone of uncertainty. You can see it has shifted ever so slightly to the east. Well, this as people in Florida are making last-minute efforts to get ready for Ian. Ian rapidly intensified into a major hurricane this morning. Now it's expected to be the first hurricane in a century to make landfall in the Tampa Bay area. That's where we find Fox News multimedia reporter Austin Westfall with the latest. Austin, how are conditions looking and who have you spoken to?
Yeah, so Andrew, basically, right now the weather is calm. The hurricane hasn't quite made it to the Tampa Bay area yet, but eventually later tomorrow evening, that's when it's expected to hit this very populated part of the state. The winds, they're going to be packing a punch, but Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says the main worry here is going to be the flooding. Now, in Sarasota, we saw hordes of people lining up for sandbags at one of the city's 3 sandbag distribution events. Most people told us they were getting sandbags to protect their homes from flooding. The line of cars weaved through the parking lot and wrapped around the street as far as we could see. And when you hear the numbers, it's easy to understand why people are prepping. Ian has the potential to bring 10 feet of storm surge, along with the possibility of a foot or more of rain. The National Hurricane Center says life-threatening conditions are possible along most of Florida's west coast. Now, Governor DeSantis has said people should be prepared for power outages as well. Many people are buying loads of gas to power their generators and cars. We spoke to one man who was bringing an extra 45 gallons home with him.
Never know. We might don't have gas for the next 30 days maybe. So I'm just trying to prepare.
Now here in the Tampa Bay area, people are securing their homes and businesses ahead of the storm. As we drove around, several businesses were boarded up. We spoke with the owner of a Christmas shop who's preparing for some damage.
We work all year just to have the last 3 months of the year for the Christmas season. And if the building and the merchandise are destroyed, you know, the game's over for this year.
Now, because of flood risks, evacuation orders are being issued for areas in lower elevations. Here you see police in Clearwater, which is about a half hour west of Tampa, moving a lifeguard tower to higher ground. Now, Ian is expected to reach the Tampa area by tomorrow evening. After it moves past this area of Florida, it's expected to keep moving north up into Georgia. Andrew, back to you.
Austin, give us a sense and, walk us around, have a look there. Is it busy where you are? You were showing kind of the lines of cars, the traffic getting out of the Tampa Bay area. What is it looking like there?
From looking at the traffic cams, it appears that people are taking the evacuation orders to heart. We were traveling to and from Clearwater from Tampa, back and forth, and there was traffic every time we made that trip. As of right now, there is still traffic moving around in downtown Tampa. People are going about their business, walking on the sidewalks. But again, the weather just isn't that bad yet. It's calm here. It's not even drizzling. It's hardly even breezing at this point. So again, a lot of people, they are preparing for a bad storm to hit. Not quite yet seeing the residual effects of that on the streets yet. We have seen that several gas stations are sold out of gas, and a lot of grocery stores are closing early here.
Also, just lastly for you, because as you were saying in your report, this is really hasn't happened to the Tampa Bay region, at least a major storm like this in about 100 years' time. Now, the state of Florida is always very equipped and prepared for storms like this, but do some Tampa Bay residents feel uneasy? Do they necessarily know what to do, even though those evacuations are in place?
Yeah, so when most people think hurricane, they think of hurricane-force winds. That's why you saw a video of people boarding up their windows. But a lot of people here are concerned about the flooding because you ultimately can't get away when we're talking about, 10-foot plus storm surge plus, rainfall on top of that. Some people just don't know how to deal with that. And that's why, it seems so many people might be leaving these lower level lying areas like Clearwater, which is right on the coast. Here in downtown Tampa, we're not quite as close to the coast as a city like Clearwater would be, but you're seeing this type of movement all up and down Florida's west coast, from Sarasota all the way up to the Tampa Bay area here. People have not experienced a storm like this in this area for a while, no, but they're treating this with vigilance, and many people are more than likely going to be feeling a pretty strong storm here.
Okay, Fox's Austin Westfall there live for us in Tampa. Austin, stay safe. We'll be talking again, no doubt.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, we thank Austin there, as so many of our reporters who are in Florida right now are providing such great information, such great insight, on-the-ground analysis as well. Let's put this shot up for you. We are waiting a press conference from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in yet another briefing and update about preparations the state is making. We also have our X-Red weather system. We're going to be speaking very soon to the acting director of the National Hurricane Center, Jamie Rome, to talk about where forecasters think this is going to go. Will that cone of uncertainty shift ever so eastward yet again, like we saw a little bit this morning. And so they are expecting landfall sometime around tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We want to thank everyone for choosing Live Now from Fox as we continue to cover Hurricane Ian. We're going to leave this up. We're going to be speaking to our folks there at the National Hurricane Center very soon. Okay, and you can just see there the strength of this storm. It's a Category 3. Remember, yesterday at this time, we were saying it was headed directly for western Cuba. We're going to be getting some images as well out of Cuba as this storm moves past it on its way to western Florida. Of course, mandatory evacuations are in place. The major airports have ceased and shuttered operations until the storm is essentially over. That's the Tampa Bay Airport. That's the St. Petersburg Airport. We also are learning a number of events have been postponed and delayed, including a lot of sporting events, the Tampa Bay Lightning, their preseason games, and the like. We also know that another major event that was supposed to be happening in Washington tomorrow on Capitol Hill, the latest installment of the January 6th House Select Committee hearings, also postponed. They were supposed to take place tomorrow. We're going to be speaking very soon here with the National Hurricane Center. We're going to get that set up, and then we'll take it. Okay, this is Andrew Kraft here as we approach 2:30 on the West Coast, 5:30 there on the East Coast. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis just stepped up to the podium. We're going to be bringing you those remarks very, very soon here. Right now, though, we want to get an update from the National Hurricane Center, being joined by Acting Director Jamie Rome. Mr. Rome, thank you so much for being with us. We've been speaking with you throughout the last 24 hours, and we know that cone of uncertainty has shifted ever so eastward. What's its track right now? What do you think?
Well, it's shifted more towards direct impacts for southwestern Florida, so down towards Fort Myers, so down more in this area. But what I want to caution against is people up in Tampa feeling like they've dodged a bullet or somehow gotten lucky, because what's probably going to happen over the next couple of days is a band of very heavy rain. Very heavy rain. So this graphic is showing upwards of 15 inches basically along the I-4 corridor, creating a significant flood risk. And indeed, we've upgraded our flood risk or heavy rainfall risk to now high. Now, from experience, this is pretty rare to have it go to high risk. So that's indicative of significant risk even north of the track.
Okay, so you're saying the Tampa area is not in the clear at all just yet. What about some of these other areas in Florida, the Orlando area? And we've also been hearing, especially from you guys there at the National Hurricane Center, that this storm could hover, that it could sit, and that's where most of the rainfall might be coming from. Is that still what the models are saying?
Yeah, it's going to basically crawl slowly across the Florida Peninsula, which heightens the risk from all of the hazards. Storm surge down along the coast down here, rainfall and winds inland, and as that heavy rain falls and saturates the soil, the wind then comes and knocks trees down, which then creates blocked roads and power outages. So it's just going to be a really tough few days over a good chunk of Central Florida.
Okay, and just lastly, Mr. Rome, what about tornadoes that could spawn from some of these hurricane-related winds? Are you seeing that as well in Florida yet?
It's certainly the potential. Potential is there. There's always a potential of tornadoes in these outer bands, if you will. You're a little bit removed from the center. But at this point, we really think the damaging wind with the core of the hurricane, the flash flood potential, like what I'm showing here, and then the storm surge potential down in the southwest Florida are the main hazards.
Okay, Jamie Rome there with the National Hurricane Center. We appreciate your time. Stay safe, and we'll be talking again. Okay, we always appreciate all the things they do to keep us safe, to keep us informed as well. But like I said, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and state officials there in Florida are holding a briefing as we speak. Let's start it from the very beginning.
Good evening. I'm joined here today with Kevin Guthrie, our DEM director, Major General Jim Eifert, head of the Florida National Guard, Transportation Secretary Jared Perdue. We're also, for the first time, joined by Rear Admiral Brendan McPherson, Commander, Coast Guard 7th District. We also have Colonel Gene Spalding with the Florida Highway Patrol, and then again, Gracia Check, FEMA for Region 4 Administrator for FEMA. As of 5 p.m., Hurricane Ian is located roughly 250 miles south of Sarasota. It's moving north at 10 miles per hour. It is a strong Category 3 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 120 miles per hour. As many of you know, these tracks have migrated over the past 2 days, and more recently, starting this morning, the track has migrated south of Tampa. At the 11 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center, had landfall somewhere in the Sarasota area. The 5 p.m. advisory has adjusted that track a little bit more south, and so again, this is an inexact science, of course, subject to change, but they're now forecasting it to strike land basically at the Charlotte-Sarasota County border. And if you look at that area and you're familiar with that area, you know there's a lot of potential for flooding and storm surge in that part of the state. You also, because of the track it's taking, expect a major impact somewhere in that area, but it's also going to continue moving throughout the state, and it's actually going to exit probably somewhere Volusia, Flagler, St. Johns counties. So that's going to take tropical storm force winds at a minimum up through almost like it's riding I-4. So you're going to have impacts in places like Polk County, Orange County, Volusia County. That's going to be significant winds. It's also going to be a lot of rainfall. And so those areas are already saturated. You're going to end up with more. That is going to cause hazards for trees falling down. It will likely interrupt power for many communities in that part of the state, and this is going to be working its way. You'll have the first landfall will be tomorrow night, Wednesday night, but it's going to meander through the state all the rest of Wednesday night, all of Thursday, and it's going to exit most likely sometime on Friday morning. So this is going to be a lot of impacts, and they will be felt far and wide throughout the state of Florida. I want to commend our counties on Florida's Gulf Coast for all their hard work in doing preparations, particularly over the last week. We also have a lot of residents in those counties. Many of them know the drill, but many of them are also new to Florida. And you've seen all reports that we've received from Lee and Charlotte and Sarasota all the way into Tampa Bay area is by and large people are taking appropriate precautions. When you look at storm surge of this nature, that is a very life-threatening hazard when you're talking about 10 feet, 12 feet of storm surge, which you could see in certain parts of this when it makes landfall. It's also going to produce a massive amount of rain. It is going to produce major flooding. The storm, when it impacts land, it's expected, yes, it will weaken, but it will also slow, which means it's just going to be churning out rain, moving at a snail's pace. That rain is going to pile up very quickly in different parts of Southwest Florida. So these hazards are real. We want people to be able to take the appropriate precautions. Listen to your local emergency management officials. There have been evacuations now in place for some time up and down the Gulf Coast of Florida. As the storm moves in, you're going to potentially have directives issued from folks in the interior of our state or even on the east coast of the state for low-lying areas that absolutely could end up flooding due to this storm. So listen to that and heed those instructions and make sure you're doing what you need to do to be able to protect yourself. So we now have over 2.5 million people that are under some type of evacuation order, and that includes people in counties such as Charlotte, Citrus, Hernando, Hillsborough, Lee, Levy, Manatee, Pasco, Pinellas, Sarasota counties, Collier, Gilchrist, Glades, Highland, and Taylor counties. Make sure you know your evacuation zone. You go to floridadisaster.org/plan-prepare, floridadisaster.org/plan-prepare. We can rebuild property, we can fix infrastructure, you can fix your home. You don't get a mulligan when your personal safety is at risk. And so we know this thing is going to be hitting the state directly sometime tomorrow evening. You still have some time, but that time is rapidly running out. Florida Department of Transportation and Florida Highway Patrol have been in coordination. Once the traffic on I-4 reduced to under 40 miles an hour and you started to see the buildup, they have activated the emergency shoulder use on I-4 eastbound from Tampa to Orlando. This will add capacity and will allow the evacuations to move more quickly. In this area, motorists can use the left shoulder. And then in Orlando, where the shoulder use ends, there are several roads where motorists can move north or south, or they can continue on I-4 in the normal traffic lanes. And we do emergency shoulder use rather than the one-way traffic because you still need to be able to get people into where the storm is coming with supplies and all sorts of other things. And so this has been studied by this department for a decade, and this has proven to be the superior way to do it. There is not yet emergency shoulder use on I-75 because the traffic is flowing. If that traffic does go to the point where it's under 40 miles an hour sustained, then they will execute that. Why wouldn't you just execute it regardless? Well, because it's hazardous to have people going 75 miles an hour on a shoulder, and that's where the traffic has been by and large. But we understand that can change, and the FDOT has been instructed by me and Kevin to make sure that they make those appropriate adjustments. We've also suspended tolls on additional roads. We had all the tolls in the Tampa Bay area, of course, as well as I-75 going into Alligator Alley. We now have State Road 91, the Turnpike Mainland from Osceola Parkway north to I-75, State Road 417, Southern Connector Extension, Central Florida Greenway and Seminole Expressway, State Road 429, the Western Beltway, State Road 408, State Road 429, State Road 528, the Beach Line, State Road 414, State Road 538, State Road 453, State Road 551, I-4 Express, and State Road 552. So those are all the main toll roads in Central Florida. We have the Tampa Bay area, you have it going into Alligator Alley, and now you have that. A list of all the facilities can be found at fdot.gov/Ian toll suspension, fdot.gov/Ian toll suspension. And as we continue to monitor the path, if there are more tolls that need to be suspended, of course we will do it. We announced earlier today, but want to make sure everyone knows that if you are seeking shelter in a hotel, that Expedia has partnered with Visit Florida to provide access to hotel rooms in our state. If you go to expedia.com/Florida, expedia.com/Florida, you can see what is available. And again, if you're called upon to evacuate, you don't need to necessarily evacuate hundreds of miles away. You're being called to evacuate because of the threat of storm surge and flood risk. If you get to higher ground, most of the places in the state of Florida are going to be able to handle hurricane force winds, and so you'll be able to be there for the storm, then hopefully return as soon as possible. Don't leave your pets behind. Helpful information about planning for your pet is also available at floridadisaster.org/plan-prepare, floridadisaster.org/plan-prepare. Almost every pet shelter is going to be pet friendly People understand that that's important, and it is important that we're taking care of our pets. So as of 3 p.m., almost 100 shelters, including more than 50 special needs shelters, have been opened, mostly along the Gulf Coast region of the state of Florida. There's more shelters that are constantly being added, and particularly as the track of the storm changes, you're going to see more counties shift into that mode in different parts of Florida. Go to floridadisaster.org/shelters if you want to see the shelter availability, floridadisaster.org/shelter.